There is a new title for his closing note tonight, and it is a wake-up call, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe we need this at 6 o'clock in the evening, a wake-up call. He's the top marketeer of the world's largest spender in advertising. I'm here to listen, learn, and maybe you too. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the last one speaking tonight, Mr. Marc Pritchard. Coming in from Cincinnati to Cologne. Marc, it's good to see you again.
Hi, everyone. And I want to thank all of you for joining me here today. This is very exciting. I haven't been here in Dmexco for, I guess, about 4 years now, correct? 4 years. Gotcha. Okay. So, you know, wake-up call. Marketing and the marketing world got a big wake-up call this year. Digital media turned 21 years old, surpassing TV as the #1 form of advertising of $200 billion, and continuing its journey to completely transform the media industry. But you know, leadership brings big responsibility. And when we collectively raised the bar on transparency, it became pretty clear that digital media still had some growing pains to work through. Now, while digital media matured, Moore's law of doubling computing power every 18 months roared along, and the rumblings of the next wave of transformation grew louder. Wherever you turn, massive databases are forming with unique consumer identities. Artificial intelligence is accelerating how brands connect with consumers. And at last, the powerful dream of mass one-to-one marketing is becoming a reality. And as the world became more troubled with environmental, social, and political upheaval, it was brands and companies who transformed themselves into responsible global citizens, with digital technology paving the way. Social media is fueling a new era of corporate citizenship, shining the light on truth and giving brands the chance to use their voice for good. But perhaps the loudest alarm is that despite spending an astounding $600 billion a year on marketing, our collective industries still aren't growing enough, holding stubbornly on to low single-digit market growth. You might say, never have so many done so much for so little. Now, we've heard these wake-up calls loudly and clearly at P&G. In fact, we are a profoundly different company than just a few years ago, transforming ourselves for the digital world. Our ambition is to be the absolute very best at serving consumers with our portfolio of everyday, market-leading household and personal care brands that offer daily use products where products solve problems and performance drive purchase. We're raising the bar on everything we do, and especially brand building, and using digital technology every step of the way. We're relentlessly pursuing media transparency for a clean and productive media supply chain. We're leaping to the next disruption through mass one-to-one marketing. And we're stepping up to use our voice in advertising as a force for good and a force for growth. Now, today I'm going to highlight a few of the actions we're taking to transform, and I'm asking you to join us and others in the industry to take similar actions on your businesses. Because the fact is, if we all raise the bar and transform ourselves, we can accelerate market growth, and that lifts all boats, and all of us, especially consumers, will benefit. So let's get started. Action 1. We're transforming media transparency. The reality is, in 2017, the bloom came off the rose for digital media. The reason is the substantial waste in what has become a murky, non-transparent, even fraudulent media supply chain. Now, this chart that was up just a minute ago, that you'll see in a minute when they click back to it 3 or 4 times, this chart that you just took a picture of, that I noticed, actually illustrates the problem, because as little as 25% of the money we spend in media actually makes it to the consumer. With $200 billion in spending, it was frankly time to stop giving digital media a pass and insist that it grow up. So together, with many other companies and industry leaders such as ANA and IAB, we are collectively implementing 5 key actions by the end of the calendar year to raise the bar on transparency. Here they are. Adopt one viewability standard so we know whether an ad has a chance to be seen. Get third-party accredited measurement verification so we know that we're getting the media reach and frequency that we pay for. Demand transparent agency contracts so we know what our agencies are doing with our money. Eliminate fraud so we know humans see our ads, not robots. And ensure brand safety so we know that our ads show up in the right environment and not in a terrorist video. Now, I get asked a lot, when do you think these steps are going to be complete? And the progress is encouraging. We're probably about 60% complete today and should be largely finished by the end of 2017, which is what we requested. Now, this is a big sea change in the digital media ecosystem, and nearly everyone in the industry is doing their part. But to be clear, we all must stay diligent to get it done and to keep the standards high going forward. These are frankly common sense steps, long overdue, and necessary for a clean and productive media supply chain that frees up time and money for what's really important and what really matters, which is better advertising and innovation. But look, transparency is really only a foundational step. Now that we have objective performance data, the real work begins. So now we can assess the true value of our media investments. And we've already started, and as the fog began to clear, what we're finding is kind of illuminating, which is raising the bar even higher for us. Let's just take viewability, for example. Remember, this simply answers the question, does the person have the opportunity to see the ad? And for too long, what we were doing is flooding digital media with 30-second ads, treating it like another form of television. But the data now shows us that the average ad viewing time for many of our ads is 1.7 seconds, pretty much the blink of an eye. And only about 20% of those ads get watched for more than 2 seconds, the minimum standard. Talk about a wake-up call. So obviously, we stopped wasting money on 30-second ads, and we're designing ads to work in 2 seconds. And of course, we're negotiating to pay only for the ads people see. But what this did is really raise a deeper question for us. If you look at it through the lens of the consumer, just how valuable are these ads? For example, we all know that people use their social media to share things about their lives and about each other. And let's face it, ads are kind of annoying in that context. It's no wonder they only get a fleeting glance. Now, we can make a 2-second ad work, and we do, but surely we can do better than that. So that's why we're working with partners like Facebook, Instagram, Snap, and WeChat to innovate, to take it to the next level, and to create the next generation of digital ads. Because bottom line, it's time for marketers and tech companies to solve the problems of annoying ads and make the ad experience a better one for consumers. Let's move to third-party verification. Here again, the question is, are we getting the audience reach and frequency we paid for? Well, once the digital media partners stopped grading their own homework, we found that we had been reaching too few people with too many ads, too many times. Excess frequency is one of the biggest sources of waste in our industry. And yes, it really annoys consumers. It's not surprising that ad blockers are growing 20% a year. I mean, seriously, how many times does a person need to see a toilet paper ad to understand how it works? So one way we're attacking excess frequency is through the next generation of programmatic media. Now, our first time around, we saved about $200 million over a 5-year period. But that was mostly through cheaper ad buys, which was looking at it through our lens. So what we've now done is we've pivoted to a new programmatic approach so we can solve the problem of excess frequency through the lens of a consumer. reducing or eliminating annoying frequency, and serving ads only when someone's receptive. We're also teaming up with e-commerce players like Amazon and Alibaba so we can use their unique consumer ID data and reach consumers precisely when they're ready to buy. This is accelerating our e-commerce business, which is already $3 billion, growing 30% a year, and 8 out of 10 of our categories are building market share. But what it's also doing is cutting waste by 20% and improving ROI by 4 times. But even more importantly, it's creating a better experience for consumers. What about fraud? Now, tag certification is helping us stamp out bot fraud, but the bigger intervention was to stop buying media from the long tail of thousands of websites, which were a massive source of bots. I admit it, we took the head fake that the endless supply of websites was going to provide cheap media, and indeed it did. And it proved the old adage, you get what you pay for. In this case, bot farms. So we now work with TAG and about 200 trusted media partners that have proven they're clean to cut off the bot-laden long tail. And of course, let's talk about brand safety. This was one of the most unpleasant wake-up calls of 2017. Now, we've taken a hard line on where we advertise, because we have zero tolerance for ads running on inappropriate content. We simply will not accept or take the chance that our ads and our brands are associated with violence, bigotry, or hate. In fact, we took an unprecedented step. We cut more than $100 million in wasteful digital spending starting last March because we couldn't be sure that our ads wouldn't appear next to bad content, like a terrorist video. Now, we still delivered our sales objective, which told us something. It demonstrated that that was probably a smart thing to do. But more importantly, we worked with the top players who frankly have acted very responsibly to get this cleaned up. But what was interesting is that this little timeout caused us to look more closely at all of the content on which we advertise. Now look, there's no question that a brand ad should never be next to an ISIS recruiting video. But seriously, how many cat videos should we really advertise on? And if you're watching a cat video, do you really want to see a toothpaste ad? So now the conversation is shifting from brand safety to raising the bar on quality content for quality placement. We've joined forces with YouTube to identify their best channels to advertise on that are 100% safe and far more engaging with better content, including original programming. We're also working with Facebook, Snap, Twitter, and Tencent in China using a similar approach. Others are following, which is going to substantially elevate the quality of content for consumers to enjoy and for brands to advertise on. So the wake-up call on digital media transparency has been a big one this year. And we're working with our partners, transforming transparency to drive out waste and getting better quality. We're only going to invest where we can prove that it's safe, efficient, effective, and high quality. But we're also going to innovate with our partners to move to the next generation of better advertising in the digital world. That's going to be good for brands, and even more important, it's going to be a better experience for the consumers that we serve. Which leads us to action 2. We're unleashing the next powerful transformation of brand building, which is mass one-to-one marketing. For more than 100 years, brand building has been about mass, blasting messages as far and as wide as we possibly can, hoping to catch someone's attention to get them interested in buying our brand. This led to the Wanamaker principle, which you may have heard of, which is half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half. Now, with the advent of consumer identifiable data, we're finding out which half and innovating with artificial intelligence so we can reach people with useful and engaging one-to-one experiences, but on a mass scale. Let's take Pampers, for example. Who has a baby in the room? All right, I'm seeing our target audience. Good. As soon as mom finds out, or mom-to-be finds out she's pregnant, who's the next to know? Google. when she searches about pregnancy. That sends a signal to Pampers. When we know she's interested, we can serve her information that she can use and an invitation to join the Pampers Reward program. From there, we answer her questions during her pregnancy based on what she wants to know, based on our AI-enabled engagement system. At birth, baby's first diaper in the hospital is Pampers. On Mother's Day, we serve mom a touching tribute and points for purchase. And on Father's Day, and I know there's some fathers in the room here, we serve mom and dad something kind of cute and endearing like this. Way to go, dads. From pregnancy to the day her baby leaves diapers. Okay, give it up for dads. So from pregnancy to the day their baby leaves diapers, Pampers is there for mom and dad when and where they want with useful and enjoyable one-to-one experiences, leveraging digital. Let's go to Oral-B Genius, which is another example, featuring a built-in sensor to help people get the best dental health experience. Now, believe it or not, cavities are still the #1 preventable disease in the world, and gum disease isn't far behind. A big reason is that people don't know how to brush their teeth correctly. They brush an average of 43 seconds versus the recommended 2 minutes. If you're right-handed, you brush more on your left side. If you're left-handed, you brush more on your right side. And almost everyone brushes way too hard, which erodes gums and causes sensitive teeth. You had no idea we knew this much about toothbrush, did you? The Oral-B Genius solves these problems by showing you how to brush with real-time visuals and signals. With Genius, the average brush time is now 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And a red light blinks when you brush too hard so you can save your gums. My red light is always going off. It's an individualized and personalized daily dental assistant that also sends a data signal to the folks at Oral-B when it's time for refills, serving a coupon to you only when you're most receptive and when you actually need a refill. Now, we have a lot more examples, such as Olay Skin Advisor, SK2 Beauty Consultant, and experiments from a vast network of startup partners, way too numerous to list. And in fact, right here at Dmexco, P&G is looking for new partners from the Hatch Startup Village competition that we're sponsoring. We just selected our top 4 finalists, and tomorrow is the finalist day. And inside our company, we've unleashed fast cycle teams across the entire company to innovate and usher in the next wave of disruption. Now, we're on our way to the next frontier of mass one-to-one marketing, and P&G's open for business. So bring us your best ideas and bring us your best talent. Action 3. We're using the power of digital technology to use our voice in advertising for good, transforming brands and companies into responsible citizens. Today, people want to know a lot more about brands, what they believe in, and the people and the companies behind them. They want to know about the brand's track record on environmental sustainability, diversity and inclusion, and ethics. The disruption of communications through social media, online video, viral sharing is enabling brands and companies to not only do well in business, but to do good. these are some examples of advertising from several brands in different industries and in multiple countries. And what does it have in common? It touches hearts and opens minds. Some of it is beautiful, touching, and provocative. All of it is creative and responsible, promoting something that matters. These are companies and brands that are using their voices in advertising to take a stand and promote gender equality. You might ask, why gender equality? Well, the obvious reason is that women are half the world's population, so it's common sense that there should be complete equality. The norm should be equal representation between women and men, with equal voices, equal pay, and equal respect. But the reality is, it isn't equal. The World Economic Forum's 2016 report indicates that closing the gender gap in health and education has stalled, and that the economic gap has fallen back to 2008 levels. What that means is that women and girls receive less health care than men. Girls drop out of school at a greater rate than boys, and women receive half as many STEM degrees as men. That leads to economic gaps. When they reach working age, 8 of 10 men work in paid jobs, but only 5 in 10 women do. Girls spend 30% more of their time than boys in jobs that pay nothing, zero. And there's the outrageous fact that women are still paid 20% less than men for the same job. Now, all of this is unfair, of course, but imagine what an equal world would look like. The economic impact of equal pay for equal work in the US is worth $840 billion in wages alone and additional purchasing power. And McKinsey estimates that full economic equality would add $28 trillion to the world economy. In other words, equality is not only a force for good, it's a force for growth. So one of the important steps that we're taking is to use our reach and our voice in advertising to promote gender equality. And digital technology has been the catalyst for enabling us to express our point of view far more effectively and far more broadly. Online video has given us the freedom to tell more compelling stories and convey important messages that you can't do in 30 seconds. And social media connects our stories and messages to others and shines the light on truth and transparency like never before. And P&G's reach as the world's largest advertiser gives us both the opportunity and the responsibility to use our voice for stepping up on important matters such as gender bias. And in doing so, and leveraging the power of digital media, we can promote conversations, influence attitudes, and change behavior to help make the world a better place. And by the way, as I mentioned before, when the world is more equal, it leads to more growth. In fact, we've found that advertising that is more gender equal in representation, roles, speaking parts, and points of view actually performs better in driving growth and changing attitudes. Just take Always, for example. Now, 3 years ago, this brand committed to raise the creative bar and make a difference in the world at the same time. They discovered an outrageous fact that 50% of girls have a significant drop in confidence at puberty, for many reasons, not the least of which is the use of demeaning phrases as, "You do that like a girl," which was used as an insult. The Always team set an ambition to change the meaning of like a girl to mean amazing things with this.
Hi, Aaron. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl.
My hair.
Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl.
Aw.
So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, but not my sister.
My name is Dakota, and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
Now, they could have stopped there, but they didn't. Always took on the outrageous fact that emojis were biased, and that half of young girls quit sports at precisely the time when they need it most. And now they're taking on the fact that too many girls at puberty have a paralyzing fear of failure with this.
Failure. The one thing everyone is afraid of, but the one thing we all experience. We've failed at many things. We will fail at many more. And that's a good thing. Because failures aren't setbacks. Failures are fuel. To keep going, to keep growing, to keep making progress for ourselves and for all of us. So let's keep failing. Because we only truly fail when we don't even try.
So thank you. What's striking is that that's the 6th iteration of Like a Girl. And despite very little paid media, it continues to have worldwide impact due to the power of social media, online video, and the massive conversation it inspires in chat and so many other places. 550 million views and 25 billion impressions later, Always has been building awareness, market share, and sales. And attitudes are changing. 76% of people now view Like a Girl as a positive expression versus only 19% before. That's the transformational power that digital technology has given brands. The power for all of us and all brands to use their voice in advertising as a force for good and a force for growth. But we need to take it one step further. Just imagine if all brands and companies used this enormous power for good. Bias would shift, attitudes would change, action would be taken. Economic empowerment would drive market growth. But even as the world's largest advertiser, P&G is only about 2% of the total advertising spending. What if the other 98% did the same? Well, that's precisely why we've joined forces with other companies to collaborate for good, collectively shining the light on the problems, the opportunities, and the solutions. We've joined the Catalyst CEO Champions for Change and the CEO Action so we can share best practices on improving gender equality and diversity and inclusion. The ANA #SeeHer movement and the UN Women Unstereotype Alliance to eliminate gender stereotypes in advertising, and the UN Women Study on Gender Attitudes, so we can measure progress every 2 years to see how we're doing in 40 countries for the next decade. You can learn more at the Girls Lounge if you just go right over here. They know about all these things, and they've been bringing people together. Because these are the efforts that are inspiring hundreds of companies to act together and holding us all accountable for progress. There's no room for selfishness when it comes to the greater good. We're all going to vigorously compete on the basis of innovation and creativity, but we've united behind a common brief to use our voices in advertising for good. And that's why at P&G we invite all of you and everyone to join forces for an equal and better world.
Trying to get up that great big hill of hope. for a destination. I realized quickly when I knew I should that the world was made up of this brotherhood of man, or whatever that means. Into a crisis, times when I'm lying in bed just to get it all out what's in my head. And I am feeling a little peculiar. Into a wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I say, what's going on? And I say,
Cool. "2017 isn't over yet, but it sounded several wake-up calls for the marketing world. So I want to close on a call to action for us to accelerate the next transformation of brand building. Complete the media transparency interventions. These are foundational steps, but they're absolutely necessary for a clean and productive digital media supply chain that cuts waste and allows us to invest in innovation for better consumer experiences. Accelerate the next wave of disruption, mass one-to-one marketing. It's the future, and the more we all innovate, the better it will get for the consumers we serve, and the faster we'll all get there. And use your voice in advertising as a force for good on important matters such as gender equality. Because now it's brands and companies who are the key leaders for social responsibility, with digital paving the way. We're at a very important turning point. We're completing the first wave of the transformation for digital media, and then we're at the starting line for the next big brand building transformation. Let's unleash our tremendous innovative power to create better experiences for the consumers we serve, usher in greater good for the communities in which we live, and drive growth for the markets in which we compete. I'm looking forward to accelerating that momentum on this amazing journey with all of you. Thank you.